Morning once more to all of you who are joining us this morning. And of course, greetings to all of those who will be accessing this recording for later purposes. This is Rolani Zonyane. I'm the head of editorial within the Municipal Edge. It's been a great journey since we started this year. And of course, this year was preceded by webinars that took place in 2022, which then gave rise to these conversations that we are driving, and also not only by the Municipal Edge, but then it is important to thank the team from the Municipal Edge under the leadership of Dr. Ngobo. The great work and effort that you put, I believe it shows in every webinar. And of course, the Future Cities Africa, under the leadership of Dan, we do appreciate the support, Dan, because without you and the team at Future Cities Africa, we would not be having this particular platform where we can engage meaningfully in order to come up with solutions to some of our problems. And of course, we've got our partners who influence some of these programs, some of these conversations, that being the Chartered Institute of Government Finance, Audit and Risk Officers, that being Cetshwayo, and also the South African Local Government Association, that being SALGA. It's important to collaborate. It's important to also work together in ensuring that we bring about, I'll say, the changes within our local government system. And of course, we've got Sangofa on the graphics. Thanks, Esther and Tim. You are doing a sterling job. The topic today, it's the 5th of the 10 webinar series with a specific focus on audit outcomes. But we said, let's have a different angle where we invite those whom we deem to be the best to come and share their own experiences. What is it that can be done by the rest of the other municipalities or even other provinces? Because we've got Western Cape Provincial Treasury who would basically be sharing what is the secret of the success of Western Cape. Because if Western Cape can do it, any other province can do it as well. Aziz will be joined by some colleagues from the Western Cape. I see even in our audience, we've got some. And I would really like to even upfront say, I'll choose one to upgrade so that we can get those particular inputs. But Aziz will be joined by Jean-Pierre from George Municipality, who is the Chief Audit Executive, but also the Chairperson of the Western Cape CAE Forum. We will also be joined by our colleagues from Midval, being one of the municipalities in Gauteng that has been consistent, honestly, on its audit outcome record. And lastly, we'll be having Kim from King Cetshwayo District Municipality from KZN. It's also important to look across provinces, and moreover, not only focus on local municipalities, but also focus on district municipalities. As a start, I'll just flight a brief presentation, which I believe it's going to assist a great deal in shaping this conversation this morning. As I've indicated, we do this work that we do with our partners, but most importantly, specifically for this presentation, is to start to highlight the successes that really drew us to this conversation, and also the thinking behind bringing the panelists that we have today. As we can see from Auditor General, the Western Cape, since 2017-18, looking just on clean audits, there has been a vast improvement 12 clean audits in 2017-18, up to 21 clean audits in 2021-2022, which is a great work. And this is where Aziz and the team will basically be coming in and sharing with us what ingredients is the Eastern Cape using for it to have this achievement, which is applauded, but also for all of us to learn on how best we can then take from those learnings and apply in our own spaces. And we also have Mid-Valley, as I've indicated, consistently over the past 5 years. This is one municipality in Gauteng that has shown that you can achieve a clean audit, maintain it over a long time, and then just sustain that outcome. And lastly, as I've indicated, we've got King Cetshwayo District Municipality, which looking at the picture as well, 2017-2018, there was a regression from a clean audit, which should be expected at times because it happens. But what is good about this particular district municipality, as much as there was a regression, as we can see in 2017-18, it still maintained unqualified findings for 1920, and then went back to clean audits in 2020-21 and 21-22, which for me is a success on its own, where you might have seen even a different picture regressing from a clean audit to unqualified with findings, but even to worse audit findings. But the district has worked, I would say, tremendously hard to re-achieve the clean audit status. And as we can see in the previous 2 audits, that status was maintained. And some of you might be asking, where am I getting all this information? If you go to Auditor General SA's website, they've got, I think, since 2022, an interactive portal, and I've included the link, and I believe the presentation will be shared as well. If you click to any of the provinces, as you see there, it will lead you to all the municipalities in that province. You can choose the metro if you want to look at the results of the metro. You can choose the entire district if you want to look overall at a district level. But most importantly, if you then choose per municipality, it also gives you data or details or information regarding that specific municipality. And I think we need to thank AG and her team for this sterling work, because it's not only about us as practitioners, because even in this webinar, we are joined by ordinary citizens. This then makes it easier for all of us, not only to interact with these reports, but also to ensure that in terms of accountability, we've got reliable data, credible data that we can then use in our decision making. So that's that from my end. And again, as I've indicated, I will be leaning towards bringing in my panelists. I call them esteemed panelists. But as we are waiting for our lead panelist who is yet to join, and then I just got a message that our lead panelist is struggling, but it's not a train smash. It's like God was working towards this day, because I happened to invite one of my former colleagues. I know, Basil, you are not prepared, but even talking from the heart, probably that's what we need for us to be able to learn. I think let's not really wait for Aziz to join us. Yes, if he joins us, he will still have an opportunity, but I think let the conversation begin. BV, welcome. And it's great to see you again.
Good morning, and Dan and everybody. Thanks, man.
No, wonderful. Oh, Aziz has just come in. I think Aziz is coming in. Let's just give him a few seconds. But again, as I was saying in my opening, today is not about politics around clean audits. I've got my own politics on clean audits, but today is about learning. It's about the panelists sharing their experiences. Yes, we'll have a conversation on dealing with politics of clean audits, but today, let's just give credit where it's due. Let's listen to those who have done it to hear how they have got it right. And probably before I give to Aziz, welcome Aziz, let me also welcome our audience and thank you for always being with us. I see so many familiar faces, people that I've worked with as well, people that I've engaged with through my career within the public service. And I believe, as always, the chat box is open if you've got comments. Also, the Q&A function is also open for you to engage. Again, remember, today is not about politics on audit outcomes. It's about us learning from each other, drawing from each other's experiences. And I see my panelists laughing every time I mention politics, which is a reality. And probably at some point we'll have that conversation on the politics side. Let's learn today. Let's share experiences so that we can take the entire country towards the clean bill of audits. As I give over to you, Aziz, welcome once more. Aziz is currently the Provincial Accountant General within Western Cape Government, specifically within Western Cape Provincial Treasury, a chartered accountant, and also is basically driving the model that I believe, but other colleagues will come in, has taken Western Cape municipalities to where they are. Over to you, Aziz. Please engage us.
Let me say to you that in the year 2011, 2012, I was in a Premier Coordinated Forum, and the concept of Operation Clean Audit was discussed by the then Minister of Local Government, and the Premier at the time was Premier Helen Zille, and she stood up with a glass of water in her hand, and she said, guys, we are now starting Operation Clean Audit. No fanfare, and everybody was informed that from this day, from 2011, we are going to strive to get to clean governance. And in the Western Cape specifically, we make a distinction between clean audit and clean governance, because face it, clean audit does not mean that there is service delivery on the ground. And our ultimate aim is to ensure that there is governance that supports service delivery. So if you go to the next slide, one of the things that we do on an annual basis is we ensure that we study the Auditor General's report because there's a lot of insights in that general report. Now, in the last audit outcome, the Auditor General had called on all municipal leaders to transform local government and to improve people's lives. What we've realized as a provincial treasury is that we can support the municipality as much as possible. However, it is the municipality, the leadership of the municipality that is responsible for running the municipality, for incurring any kind of expenditure, for ensuring that the laws and the regulations are followed. So there is this continuous support that they get from the provincial treasury in the Western Cape, but they do realize that they take ultimate accountability. What we've also driven together with the Auditor General is that there has to be active citizenry. And what that means is if the public doesn't hold the council accountable, council will continue to do what they want to do. And we have essentially, in terms of the Western Cape, we allow the public to raise certain issues with us. The public is invited to all of our Standing Committee on Local Government sessions. And I've just come off the road now where we visited the 3 municipalities in the Western Cape that did not get an unqualified audit. we had the standing committee on local government there, and we actually held the executive mayor, the CSO, and the accounting officer, the municipal manager, accountable. And we've asked them, listen, what are you going to do? What do you need from us to be able to turn the ship around? And the municipality was actually very grateful for the assistance that we are giving. Then the AG also indicated that to be able to turn around what is happening in the country, we have 257 municipalities. There has to be a culture of performance. There has to be a culture of accountability, and there has to be a culture of transparency and integrity. And we firmly believe that when you shine sunlight onto something, then when you bring something to the fore in terms of asking people to account for whether it is MFMA compliance or whether it is the audit action plan, we actually have face-to-face engagement with them and with their peers in what we call our time engagement. The next slide just gives you an indication of what the audit outcomes have been over the last number of years. Specifically for last year, when it comes to 2020, 2021, the Western Cape had a total of 22 clean audits out of 41. We've always been under AG's case in that there is no such thing as clean, because the way politicians and the way the residents translate clean, if it's not clean, then it means it's dirty. We've gone onto this trajectory to say, in the Western Cape, it's not about clean audits, but it's about clean governance. So we make sure that there are proper standard operating procedures in place, and we make sure that in terms of appointments, the appointments are very critical in terms of appointing suitably qualified staff. And we have a unit within the Provincial Treasury that previously used to work under Douglas Stone that now monitors whether or not the minimum competencies for municipal officials are being implemented and are being monitored by the municipalities. So the outcome for the Western Cape last year was 22 clean audits. We had 5 unqualified audits with other methods, and then we had 3 audits that did not achieve the unqualified. There were 3 audits. One of them had a qualification, another one of them had an adverse opinion, and then the third one had a disclaimer. And I'm sure you guys will know that the moment you reach to a disclaimer or adverse opinion, it's a lever that can be used by National Treasury to withhold the equitable share. As a province, we don't have much of a lever because most of the money that is given to the municipalities comes from national government. We do have some levers that we can pull, and that is in terms of the financial management support grant that we supplement. But there isn't much of a lever other than having a collegial relationship with the municipality and convincing the municipality that we are there to support them. We also fund the idea that most of the municipalities in the Western Cape are clean, and for those that do not achieve the green outcome, we basically have their peers hold them accountable. Because in the Western Cape, if one municipality doesn't make it, it is a black or red dot on the entire province. So we have forums such as the MN Forum, we have a CFO Forum, and in those forums, we rely on CFOs and MNs to hold one another accountable in terms of the audit outcomes. Let me also say that the previous National Accountant General had indicated to the Western Cape that you guys do not know what problems are, because at that time, you have a single or the majority political party is also running the province. What we are finding now is that with the coalition government, it's becoming more and more difficult. But we leave the politics to the Department of Local Government, and we strengthen the resolve of the administrators, and we deal directly. We have a direct line to speak directly to the municipal manager as well as to the CSO. If you move across to the next page, Zolani, this is the audit outcome trend for the Western Cape over the last number of years, representing 7 years here. And as you can see, the map is largely green. And in the Western Cape, we also don't favor any of the municipalities. We are truly, when it comes to keeping each municipality the same, we, as a treasury, we strive to be apolitical. It doesn't matter who your council is run by, because from an administrative point of view, we've given municipalities, especially those 3 municipalities that have had adverse or qualified or even a disclaimer, we've given them money to support service delivery. If I think about one of the municipalities that we visited in the week, we have specifically given them a number of millions of rands to ensure that when it comes to drought, that they are still able to deliver water services to their people. And we are also now dealing with another municipality where there is possibility of major businesses moving out of the area because the municipality cannot keep the proper service delivery. So we are on the ground looking at the projects that the municipality is delivering and making sure that they have a pipeline of projects that the Western Cape can stand behind. If we move to the next slide, essentially, you will see if you are working in the audit space that the Auditor General has come up with metrics to evaluate or measure the health of a municipality. Now, what we try and do is we align it to our national treasury priorities. And we are, you will know that National Treasury has issued a circular, I think it was Circular 71, where you look at the normal financial statistics. But what we put to the municipal managers and the CFOs is perhaps it's time we start looking at our own metrics, because again, even if a municipality comes out with a clean audit, the National Auditor General has in one interview indicated that even dormant companies, when nothing gets done, can achieve a clean audit. So it doesn't measure service delivery. And I think that in terms of the provincial strategic plan, it's more about governance for service delivery. So we're putting a few different financial health indicators forward for the municipality. Something, for instance, that we're specifically looking at in the Western Cape is the debtor collection period, and we are strongly following up on the cash flow and the cash collection of the debtors. And the one thing that we know that we've taken through every forum is to make sure that our municipalities has a proper property valuation, property register, so that the valuation can be correct, because the sources of income for the municipalities are very limited. The sources of income is either property rates, electricity, water, as well as refuse collection. And then if you look at the other major sources of income, it is either a conditional grant from National Treasury or some other conditional grant from the cluster, whether it be your MIG or your USDG. These are specifically grants that is given for development within the community. And then one other source of income for the municipalities is fines. We have 2 types of engagement with the municipality. So in February, we have an engagement which we call TIME, and that is your technical integrated municipal engagement. And that is where we look at what are the GRAP standards that they need to apply, what are the FMCM, it's the Canadian model for the financial management capability maturity model. So we go into depth. I mean, National Treasury has brought out, I think it was circular, MSMA circular 112 and 113. The National Treasury is now monitoring the FMCM, but Basel Fund was part of the team that said we cannot just get a tick box exercise from the municipality. We need to make sure that if they say something is in place, where is the audit evidence? So the team then went and talked to a service provider, and we now have what we have for an evidence bank. So that, let me take one example. If you say there's an audit committee, that's ticking the box. But now we go one level further. We say, give us the audit committee charter. Then we go one level further. Give us the minutes of the meetings of the audit committee. Then we go one level further. What are the reports that the audit committee has given to the council? And what we are now trying to do is we set up in the provincial treasury, we set up what we call municipal intelligence teams. We in the Western Cape we have 5 districts. Each district is headed up by a senior manager. That senior manager has a pool of people that gets them intelligence about a municipality. And we set up team folders for every district and for every municipality, so that if the head of department wants to find out, as an example, what is happening in Swartland, we don't have to run around and look for people. We use technology, a single folder that has every report on Swartland. You would be able to find it on a cloud within the Provincial Treasury IT services, so that when the HOD is at home and is maybe wanting to read something about a municipality, all of the information for that municipality is in a single place. We cannot do this. Firstly, you cannot do this without people, and you cannot do this without employing the right type of technology. Technology, we are in the 4th industrial revolution, the age of the 4th industrial revolution, and we have to use technology to best advantage. And one of the things that has saved us in the Western Cape is, so we have 30 municipalities, of which 28 municipalities have been delegated to the province, and 2 of those municipalities are what we call non-delegated municipalities. That's the city and that is George. What we've been able to arrange with the municipalities is as soon as a communication of audit findings is raised with the municipality, send it through to Provincial Treasury. We then have our people go through the finding, which we call a comment, and we consider whether or not it is a transversal finding, whether it is a municipal specific finding. We look at the nature of the finding. If we see that the finding is transversal in nature, we alert all municipalities to make sure that they have the evidence available when the Auditor General comes. If it is a municipal specific finding, we escalate it to the right unit within the Provincial Treasury that deals with it. And I can promise you, most of the findings over the last number of years is supply chain in nature. Last year, I think in the Western Cape, we had 0 material adjustments to the financial statements. And that speaks to one of the other programs that I will get to in terms of what we're doing. If we move on to the next slide, and let me say this, colleagues, that one of the reasons why the model in the Western Cape can be so successful is the fact that we don't have a separate branch that only deals with MSMA. Within the Western Cape, we have people that deal both with PSMA and MSMA. If I just consider my portfolio, GRAP is GRAP, whether you are in the PSMA or in the MSMA space. So I would service departments, I would service public entities, and I would service municipalities, because if you have an audit finding that's GRAP related, it doesn't matter if you're a public entity or municipality, GRAP is GRAP for both institutions. Then when it comes to budget, our budget people will specifically only concentrate on MSMA. But when it comes to policy, our policy guys, it's a mixture of PSMA and MSMA staff, because if when I say PSMA, I mean the province. The province is located within a municipal region. You cannot make policies for a municipal region if you don't involve the municipality itself. That is why we have integrated teams. The disadvantage of this, though, is that our people are exhausted, because if I just consider the audit period, the PSMA audit ends the 31st of July. We immediately go into preparing the municipalities for submission by the end of August. Then we support them between September and November, and then we go into December. There's no break for us in December. And while we're supporting the municipalities, we're also supporting the standing committee SCOPA on public accounts. So it is spreading your people very thin. So you need to have a well-established team. And the other thing that has saved the Western Cape is that you have people that have been serving for a very long time. both in our clients, in our departments, the average that a CFO serves is no less than 10 to 15 years. In the municipalities, we also have long-standing and long-serving CFOs as well as NMs. So at least the top structure, the people at the very top that is responsible and accountable for making decisions, is continuity. And that has helped the Treasury tremendously. What we also do is we do in our time engagements. Now, time is your strategic integrated municipal engagement. And this is where we look at the credibility and the sustainability of a budget. That engagement normally happens around May. And we really dive into the budget of the municipality, because unless you know the detail, you are not able to support the municipality sufficiently. The stance that the Western Cape takes is we first support you, we train you, and if after that you don't comply, and then we will take action against the municipalities. I mean, in the Western Cape, Zolani will agree and inform you that we even write red letters to the municipalities when they don't submit their IM. Today it's called the data the MSCOA data stream, but we do write those non-compliance letters to the municipalities. When it comes to the next slide, you will see that we also have a very a program that deals with UIF&W. Last year, not last year, the year before, the National Treasury delegated the power to condone UIF&W to the province. However, the Provincial Treasury can only condone expenditure, unwanted expenditure as it relates to departments and public entities. When it comes to the condonation of irregular expenditure, only National Treasury can do that for the municipality, and the accounting officer and council has to ensure that the various role players play their role. So we have in the Western Cape done some training for IMSA. We get involved with SALGA when it comes to rolling out training. We also get involved with the Department of Local Government, because ultimately the information submitted to the PC, if we ensure that the information submitted is of a quality that we can work with, then it becomes easier when we address audit issues. If we move over to the last slide, I think the next few slides, Alani, is just the issues around unauthorized, precision, wasteful, and irregular expenditure. But then I think if we go to the following slide, because I do want to give time for the panel and for the colleagues in the session to ask questions. If we go to the next slide, what we also do, and I spoke to this earlier, is starting with the next slide, Jolani. Here we go. What we do is, and JP is in the forum, we will ask every municipality, please provide us with your management report. The reason for that is not all comments is escalated to your audit report. So we ask the municipalities, give us your management report, and there is a gentleman's agreement between the municipality and the Provincial Treasury that they will give us their management report. We then have a team that sanitizes the entire management report, and we consolidate all 30. If we receive 30, we consolidate all of those management reports. We then categorize and classify the findings. And that categorization and classification then results in, if it's accounting issues, we make sure that when we train municipalities in for the next audit cycle, we cover all of the accounting issues that was raised. That is why, colleagues, if you look at the management report or the audit report of the Auditor General for the Western Cape, you would find very rarely repeat findings. And that is across our accounting forum, our performance information forum, even our supply chain forum, as well as the financial governance, where we're dealing with internal audit committee, human resources, and consequence management. Very rarely will you find repeat findings, because we apply the National Treasury, the MSMA, very strictly in terms of when municipalities are preparing the audit action plan. The audit action plan must not just be based on your audit report. It must be based on your audit report and your management report. And then we follow up on a quarterly basis on the audit action plan. And then in around about February, when we have our time engagement, we also give the municipality an executive summary of the issues that they must address before the next audit. And for this, the MNs and the CFOs are involved, and they take it very seriously. If we turn to the next page, we will then have what we call a MAC, which is the Municipal Accounting Forum. In the Western Cape, we have many forums. We have the Accounting Working Committee. We attend all of the public sector accounting forums. We have the Municipal Accounting Forum, and then a flagship of the Western Cape is we have the Act Consistency Workshop. And what that means is during the month of August, around about the first 2 weeks of August, we get all 30 municipalities in a room and we compare financial statements. We have the peer-to-peer comparison, so that it's not like a big brother telling you what to do. Treasury is there to facilitate the peer-to-peer comparison, and what we also do is we've consolidated prior years so that we make sure if everybody is disclosing, for instance, revenue in exactly the same way, when the Auditor General finds an issue with one municipality, we know that we've had a consistency workshop for revenue. Then we know that this finding will be raised in every municipality. And if Provincial Treasury believes that we followed the standard to the T, we have bilaterals with the Auditor General on a technical basis. And this is important. One of the key things that we have established and that we have formed over a number of years is to make sure that the technical people sitting across the table from the Auditor General is as qualified or even more qualified than the Auditor General. Many a times the municipality does not have the appropriate skills in the people that is working in the municipalities, because that is highly technical. And for that reason, the Aziz also raised the issue of the utilization of consultants. So what we do is in the Western Cape, we make sure that we have at least at the level of CA and directors that have worked in the municipal space. They don't have to be a CA, but they need to understand the GRAP standards, so that when you go into a technical discussion with the Auditor General, you know the standards even better than the Auditor General. And most of the times the Auditor General backs down because when we provide advice to the municipalities, it is backed by the accounting standards. Where we find that the auditor is still not wanting to listen, we even wrote in National Treasury, and at some point, at some stage, we've also wrote in the Accounting Standards Board. Now, even though the Accounting Standards Board is the issuer of the GRAP standards, they do not get involved in municipal specific issues. But what we do as a Western Cape, we then consider if this is a transversal issue for the ASB then to issue a frequently asked question, because the AG will also use that as part of their motivation for whether or not there's a finding. If you go to the second last page, the support that we specifically arranged for this year is our Act Consistency Workshop is happening around about the 17th of August, and that is open to all 30 municipalities. And if it's a virtual engagement, we don't mind any other municipalities. When I speak to my fellow accountant general, we don't mind any other municipality to join in virtually, because we all learn from one another. We then have a specific plan where municipalities have the opportunity to submit their draft annual financial statements to the PC, where we use the ASB's GRAP disclosure checklist, and we do an independent high-level desktop review of the act. We then send that findings to the municipality before the audit committee looks at it, so that by the time they submit their financial statements, it is a true and fair reflection, and it has to be reviewed by somebody completely independent of the municipality. Last year was our highest success rate, in that we had about 20 municipalities that submit the information to us before submission to the Auditor General. And the reason why I'm making that point is a municipality is not compelled to submit the information to the Provincial Treasury, but we have this understanding that the Provincial Treasury is there to support the municipality. And where the support isn't taken up later on, when you're sitting with a unfavorable audit opinion, if you have approached us before, or if we've asked you for information and you didn't submit it, it would be harder to get the support from the Provincial Treasury. Then, in terms of the Auditor General's or the municipalities' weekly Provincial Audit Steering Committee meetings, we ensure that the MM or the CFO is sitting in that Audit Steering Committee meeting. You need the highest accountable authority of a municipality to sit in that meeting, because the Auditor General either has a manager or a senior manager that sits in those meetings. It's important for the MM or the CFO to be in those meetings because they need to be able to be responsive if there's going to be any negative impact on the audit outcomes. We also ask the municipalities that when they have issues with the auditors, to invite us virtually to those audit committee meetings, audit steering committee meetings, because the detail of the findings are normally discussed in the audit steering committee meetings. And then what we've also created in the Western Cape, much like the private sector, we have a virtual office that deals with highly technical, complex questions. What we call TARC, it's the Technical Accounting and Reporting Committee, runs throughout the year, and it cannot basically run without the expertise of the accountants and the preparers of the financial statements. And that's where the Accounting Working Committee has been established in the Western Cape. And then what we do, once all the audits are done, what we then do is we provide the municipalities with a summary of all the findings that was identified in the Western Cape. Now, 5 years ago, this reached about 1,000 findings across 60 municipalities. As of last year, if we take out the 3 municipalities that had an unfavorable audit, we had less than 100 comments across the 27 remaining municipalities. So we make sure that we inform the municipalities of what is to come so that they prepare themselves for the next year. Then, in terms of how do we continue, this is the last slide, how do we continue to continuously up our game? We are definitely speaking to our internal auditors as well as the chief audit executives, the chief audit executives as well as the audit committees in the municipalities to drive combined assurance. We have a combined assurance model for our departments and our public entities, and we've done a pilot with one of our local municipalities to be able to drive combined assurance across the rest of the city municipalities. We then also, when the Auditor General's Public Audit Act changed around about, I think it was April 2018, the Auditor General had received additional powers by way of amendments to the Public Audit Act, and the concept of a material irregularity was born. When the Auditor General did the first material irregularity audit, we had 9 in the country. From the last Auditor General's report, we had about 182 in the country. And then if I'm going to look at this year's Auditor General's report, one of the things that's continuously increasing is the Auditor General's reach in terms of what they're identifying as material irregularities. And we have already had the workshops with the MM, with the councillors, and indicated to them that the material irregularity can result in a MM or a CFO being criminally charged and being personally held liable if action isn't taken. You will see that within our city of Cape Town, it is the largest it's the metro. They had material irregularities raised against them, and immediately the MM and the CFO made sure that on a monthly basis they were resolving the issues, so much so that when the Auditor General wrote about the city, we received a clean audit last year. The Auditor General was complimentary in that the city is now taking into consideration the good work done by the MM and the CFO for resolving the material irregularities. Then we are also latched onto National Treasury's program, who requires that by 2024, there has to be zero process and wasteful expenditure. There has to be a reduction of about 75% of irregular expenditure. This is a bit of a, shall we say, a stretch, because most of the irregular expenditure emanates out of supply chain. And let me call a spade a spade. We know that the single procurement bill hasn't been finalized, and there are a lot of contradictions, or let me say there are some contradictions between various pieces of legislation. So the findings that comes out in the supply chain is normally the auditor's opinion against the municipality's opinion. And for that reason, the municipalities prefer to go to court to resolve the matter if the alternative dispute resolution doesn't work. Again, some of the other things that we are doing is we are excessively making use of technology. And I already alluded to the fact that we had a technology that allowed us to see all of the commerce across all 30 municipalities, and we're just in the supply chain process to revisit that contract or to revisit the technology. We also have a team that specifically is looking at MSCOA. Even though this reform had been introduced in 2014, it had officially been implemented 2017. What we do know is that in many municipalities, there are deficiencies within the ICT unit, and the right people is not driving the MSCOA reform, which is not an accounting reform, but an entire business reform. We do make sure that we have meetings with the service providers. We also have meetings with the municipalities, and then we do an independent assessment of the implementation of the MSCOA regulations. In terms of, and this is my last few words, we continuously and consistently driving the skills internally for our PT staff, as well as for the municipal staff. We have GRAP training twice a year, and we also involve the municipal staff to give us topics that they want covered in this training. I think the Western Cape, where National Treasury made, I think it was about 1,000 licenses available to do the GRAP training through a modular format. We encourage the municipalities to go and register. And for us, it's not about the accredited training. Most of the CAs are going to give you training on GRAP. It is the knowledge that you want and not necessarily the accreditation. And for that reason, within the Western Cape, we've managed to bring down the cost of training to what is much more palatable. I think for the Western Cape, we pay anything between 60 and 100,000, but then we get more than 200 or 300 people trained within a period of 2 days. And then lastly, we're also having these very difficult discussions between the municipality and the Provincial Treasury, between the municipality and other departments, as well as the municipality and the Auditor General, specifically in relation to the cost of compliance and the cost of audit. And then finally, Zolani, because we now have a stable audit outcome across most of our municipalities, we are now addressing the growth agenda. You now have a clean audit for 10 years in a row. What are you now going to do in terms of growing your municipality, growing the economy within your municipal district, and essentially delivering on the impediments, delivering on the requirements of the Constitution, as well as the MSMA, the MSA, the Systems Act, and the Structures Act. And then finally, for the colleagues in the room, you may have heard that the Auditor General is starting to speak about the lived experience. We have a task team that is working with the Auditor General to understand what is this lived experience and how will it be measured. And Zulani and team, that is part of the success of the Western Cape. So I give back to you. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot, Aziz. That is very much appreciated. And for the benefit of the audience, or even other colleagues who will be accessing this recording, I often refer to the Western Cape and specifically Western Cape Treasury as an academy for me, because that's where I learned what I know and understand around municipal finance and even the success that Aziz has presented. And also for the benefit of the audience, I think it's important, Aziz, to share these successes. What Aziz has presented on, it's not only the picture on local government. You can go to provincial government, provincial departments. I can bet with you Western Cape is also leading on the area of clean audits. Then it's how we then learn from these experiences, but then translate them to our own environments. As I'm about to bring in Basil, who will also link exactly to what Aziz has presented, because Aziz starts from 2011, and I believe Basil will take it even before, during the times of the municipal governance reviews and outlook, linking to the presentation of Aziz. Let me give it to you, PV.
No, thanks, that's it. And thank you, Aziz, for the awesome presentation and the opportunity to be part of the session. Yeah, Zed, I think the approach within the PTS, as you correctly said, started with a focus on good, clean governance, as Aziz alluded to. The Western Cape PT, we developed a government governance framework, which was one of the first governance frameworks for departments within the public sector space. And I think that, that was done around about 2006, up 2006 and that flowed into the governance review, the financial governance review and outlook that we utilize primarily for provincial departments, and that became a success model in provincial departments. We then went over, in 2009, when the then Minister of Local Government launched Operation Clean Audit out in Pretoria. We were then faced with, what is the strategies that you take into the local government space? And as Aziz said, 2011, it came, guys, now you must drive Operation Clean Audit in the financial governance department space. And we made some key principle decisions at that time, as Aziz alluded to. The one thing was that we said we need to drive clean governance. And I think, Aziz, when the AG starts speaking about the lived experience, I think you'll be surprised that it actually links to that strategy that we were thinking about that time already, about focusing on governance. And by Zolani, through the Treasury, by focusing on governance, was to say, through governance, municipalities deliver services and create public value. And that is where, the people thus feel local government. And that was the focus at that time, to say the principle was then to say, let's drive clean governance. Second to that was in, let's ensure that we work with municipalities. We had an oversight role. It's legislated. We can hit municipalities or departments with a stick, but that is not the approach that we decided on at that point. It was more to work with municipalities and then to say, it's almost like a partnership. It's not a big brother, it's a partnership. And then to enable municipalities to do what they were legislatively required to do. I was asked by Pravin Gordon in a meeting up in Pretoria the one time, said, what are the successes? He turned to me and he said, now, the Western Cape, you in the room, you guys always want to say you're the best. Now, what is it that makes you achieve what you're achieving? And I remember we said, my response to the minister there was to say, it's all about the basics, Minister. If we need to enable municipalities to do what they legislatively required to do. So if we go back to the legislation, let them do that. And then we make sure that we provide the support that they're at the end able to also report on it. and not then be found wanting when it comes to the end. And I would say that after that, the back to basic strategy was born. It wasn't what we intended. It was a bit enhanced academically, which also then resulted in municipalities having to report more than what they had to report previously, which at that time, you know, when I raised it in that meeting, that was not the idea. It was actually to cut back and start approaching on a differentiated model for the different sizes of municipalities. So, and I think, Zolani, the other focus that we had was to drive it from an internal control perspective. And that's where your FMCM, as Aziz spoke about, came from. You know, that is based on an internal control methodology that says, you know, you build your internal control environment, your internal control activities. And by doing those basics, making sure that the policies are in place, firstly, making sure that people are, your committees are in place, your 3-committee system, that the membership of the committees are correct. Those are basic things, ZZ. And often those basic things is what municipalities, Aziz will maybe agree with me, that those things are often catching out some municipalities, that the membership of the bid committees is not correct, you know, that they haven't established the thing properly, that the SM policies are not adhered to. You know, those are the things, you know, that often if you follow those controls, those basic controls, then at least, you know, your war is half won. Number one, you can deliver the services. Number two, you're doing it correctly. And number three, you should not be found wanting at the end from that perspective. And as Aziz said, a key focus for PT was to build intelligence at that time. You know, we had what we called BIFs, which was business insight folders. You will remember those ones. But we said, we cannot look back. You know, what we always say, looking back tells you a story for the future. It tells you where you need to plan to go. You need to learn from, and Aziz has spoken about, you know, going through your management letters. It tells you what could have gone wrong, landed in your audit report. So you need to understand those things and then be able to build to the future, you know. And that was what the transition from BIF to the MITS was, to now create municipal intelligence teams. You know, they say the modern currency, ZZ, is information and data. That is, if you look at anywhere nowadays, people just want your information, because that is the currency, because they create profiling and data on you based on that. And that was our idea at that time, to create the intelligence teams, to have our different units in the Treasury sit around the table. As Aziz said, they've now evolved it into districts under a director. It was then to get those individuals in their different areas of speciality, SEM, you know, internal audit, risk management, or public finance, or budgeting, you know, economics, to sit around the table and create that profiling of a municipality, so that we are then able to almost, Aziz, at that time, anticipate, you know, what can come through. You know, it's not, don't always work, you know, but you try to build intelligence. We particularly used to sit when it comes election times, what will happen with municipal managers, who will be back, who might not be back, because those things are, the leadership, as Aziz has alluded to, is critical for success to municipalities. So if there's any dip in that, ZZ, you know, you always, it can come back. So it was about to create that level of intelligence. And I think that the Western Cape PT really succeeded in that. And I must congratulate Aziz and the team, you know, particularly the broader PT team, you know, that they were able to build this, and they continue to build this. You know, if Aziz went back, Aziz, in the earlier years of prior to the 12, you will get 5 municipalities clean. You will get 2 municipalities the year before. And you know, it was only, I think, Swartland and West Coast at that point. You know, you get lesser. So it shows that the model, ZZ, that the Western Cape Treasury and the municipalities applied is working. But as Aziz has alluded to, you must work as a team. There must be teamwork. Your forums and your governance structures must function, and the municipalities must be active there. You know, it doesn't help the platforms gets created, but the municipalities isn't active, or they don't take a ownership role. And those are the things that I say that to me, ZZ, as having been part of that process, were part of the success of the Western Cape. And again, I'm saying, as Aziz has alluded to, there's a committed team within the Treasury. There's a committed team in all the departments that deals with MFMA that you know, work quite hard in terms of assisting municipalities and doing their best to actually sustain the clean audit. And I think even more, as it is sustaining Western Cape municipalities is also providing the services, you know, that I've observed, that I hear, that I see, you see on the public platforms. So it is actually the best of both worlds. And yeah, and that in a nutshell, ZZ, is my comment on it. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot, BV. And you know, even when Aziz was presenting, I looked back into those years. You'll remember, BV, when we started with the municipal governance reviews and outlooks. It started as a financial governance type of a space. And then when you started to roll it out, we were fighting because we didn't understand where are we fitting in to this particular picture. But I think that working together, trying to make other stakeholders to understand it worked, I would say, quite greatly. And as I'm about to invite JP, there are two things. And perhaps firstly, Aziz, as we will be getting to the panel conversations that will be after Kim, there's a question that has come through from Brian. And I think all those questions are questions that you will be attending. But that first question of Brian, also, if you can touch on not only coordination within Provincial Treasury, but coordination with other sister departments, because that question is about that. If you can touch on that. And there's one thing now for the audience. I know there might be people who are not in the public service. When Basil referred to the FMCMM, that's a financial management capability maturity model, which really was the genesis of the success, I would say, that we see in the Western Cape. And again, I always argue, but I know between Aziz and Basil, they are more learned than me on this particular subject. To say, BV, of that model, if we talk clean audits, we talk level 3. And Aziz indicated in terms of what then, that's the level 4, 5, and 6 staff combined. And again, you'll see it started many years back, anticipating the current, but still, we can say confidently, we are not there yet, but Western Cape is on path to that particular route. Let me bring in JP, who has, I can confidently call him my friend as well, as I do BV and Aziz, who is really within a municipal environment in the Western Cape, and not only a municipal environment, but playing an active role within the Western Cape CAE Forum. He is a Chief Audit Executive in George Municipality. JP, because I didn't want us to listen to these two gentlemen and painting a best picture that you can get. Your experience from a municipal level, you can take it back, the current and the future, and also the importance of these forums, and also not only the forums, the structures that we have, both internally within municipalities, but also the structures that bring all the stakeholders together, like the forum that you are heading in the Western Cape. Over to you, JP.
Good morning, Zulani, and thanks for that. Morning all through fellow panel members. Also, welcome to our attendees and thanks for joining us for this important discussion to share some advice on how municipalities can work towards improve audit outcomes and ultimately achieve clean audits. From a municipal perspective, I think, Zolani, honestly, we're really privileged to reside in the Western Cape and to have such a proactive Western Cape Provincial Treasury. So thanks to Aziz and his team, and also Basil during the prior term. But we're receiving a lot of support from the PTs indicated by Aziz. So as a CEO, I can attest to these interventions, and this just allow municipalities to strive and improve our control environment. But from my view, Zolani, I think obtaining a clean audit is one thing. It's an achievement to do that, to achieve it. However, sustaining it is another part of it. And so key importance of once you get there is to sustain it, you need to continue with the good practices implemented. A challenge for that is also the AG in terms of changing interpretations year on year. Sometimes it might be not be issued in the prior year, but will issue this year. And that's why these forums and interventions from PT side, they assist us with getting those alignments in place and so forth. But ultimately for me, I think it starts with governance. As the two previous speakers indicated, it's the tone at the top, the leadership, and I mean both politically and administratively. If you have a strong political structure, stable political structure, then things go a bit smoother in terms of what is, and administratively, when you have a MM that's strong enough to do it, CFO, all the directors in terms of that, they need to be stable in terms of that, because when there's a high turnover of these key employees, sometimes the direction changes and that might impact on the lower stance of it. There's a saying, Lani, when mommy and daddy fighting, the children will suffer. So if there should be alignment between those structures as well, and have the same goal in mind in terms of that. So I think that's key in terms of the level, tone at the top, and those persons employed there should be skilled and competent. You need to have a competency for MMN directors to deal with it. The other parts of it, you need to have that, I just alluded to the combined assurance, where we have the first, second, and third line. So all of those have to be competent, skilled, and well-equipped structures. So if we have an MMCFO in the first line that will implement the controls, that would probably enhance it a bit more. Then you have a second line in terms of all the support functions in terms of that, and internal audit coming to that in terms of capacity and adequately resourced internal audits to actually make a contribution to it. And then ultimately a strong and qualified audit committee as well, because that structure is key in terms of that. But from my side, I think, Lani, just to share some from a municipal perspective, some good practice to implement to the municipalities as well, is I think there you can split it into three parts. You can do it pre-audit, during the audit, and post the audit. From an internal perspective, I think there is, you can pre the audit, improve the control environment through your internal audits. The internal audit should be risk-based, focusing on all the high-risk areas, including the AG emerging risk that I highlight, so we can prepare what is coming on the next year. Addressing prior audit findings to identify problem areas. There's a lot of issues we can do pre-audit. Like example, you can review the F's plan, the APR plan, just to ensure that it's complete and to ensure that the time frames that's listed there are realistic in terms of that. So from an audit perspective, you need to be part of that process in preparing for the audit in terms of practice in terms of that. So 10-year weekly F's prep meetings. From our side, Aziz also conducts a technical assessment on our F's before submission, so we appreciate that. They did that for George in the prior audit, and hopefully they will do one again for this year. And it really assisted us in terms of identifying gaps that we can rectify before that, and that is just to ensure, to assist with the quality and completeness of the F's, but not forgetting the audit performance report as well, because the AG has that focused areas, the three focused areas, expressing opinion, the F's, but also on the performance report that might influence the audit report in general, in achieving a clean audit status. So we should also focus on the APR side in terms of the reliability and integrity of those information. So from municipal perspective, we also, the audit committee needs to review it, internal audit reviews it. Independently, we also have someone reviewing it and PT. So there's a lot of assurance providers in getting a quality document to the AG in terms of the apps and APR supported with fully aligned audit files in terms of that. But management buy-in and support is key in this process, in heading up to it in terms of what is reported by external internal audit, and those actions should receive timeous attention. Neither PT or internal audit can implement these control measures or recommendations that's being made by external internal audit. It is the leadership that should do that. So a strong management team will definitely assist with regards to that, in terms of that. But I think from my side, if there's just like Bezel indicated, back to basics, proper record keeping, the daily basic controls in terms of reconciliations of transactions, accurate reports, reviewing compliance legislations, and so forth. Those are the issues that would assist in coming up to the audit and ensure that the municipality are ready for the audit in terms of that. That's my opening remarks. Thanks, Luzani.
No, thanks a lot, JP, for that. That was mouthful. And when you get the next opportunity, which might even be as part of the closing remarks, because looking at the time, I don't wish to keep us in this platform beyond 12 o'clock. Specifically, the role of the forum, the Western Cape, the Chief Audit Executive Forum, because that is part of these ingredients that we are looking for. Because you might have in other parts of the country the same forum, but not as effective as your forum is. So I would like you to touch on that. And as I'm about to bring in Kim, UJP continued mentioning the Fs and the APR, and this is an educational platform as well, and other people might be wondering, Fs, those are annual financial statements for your benefit, and the APR, it's mainly the annual performance reports, because this content will lend to people who might not even understand these acronyms, but as public servants, we know that is our language, and we are often, what's the right word? When we use these acronyms, they say it's our language, and we often get a backlash at sometimes, because we'll talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and then someone at the end will come back and say, but I didn't hear anything, because all these acronyms that we are using really left me lost. I think the last contribution will be coming from Kim. And as I was saying, we didn't want to focus this particular session only on the success of the Western Cape. We wanted to demonstrate as well, to say somewhere else in the country there are success stories. And again, I won't be surprised when Kim comes in and perhaps not repeat, but augmenting what the colleagues have said, to say what has brought the success of King Cetshwayo district municipality. As I've indicated, when I did that brief presentation earlier, you saw the trends of King Cetshwayo for the past 5 years. And again, looking at how the audit outcomes of the country are, I'm still convinced, Kim, from my end, King Cetshwayo still, over the past 5 years, has performed well, despite those 3 years where there was a regression. But for the past 2 years, you've shown that you can do it. It was not by mistake. And that's the sustainability part that also the colleagues have mentioned earlier. Let me give it to you, Kim, and not take much of your time. And immediately after Kim, I would request you, Aziz, because the questions that we have, I think, are the questions that we'll be able to answer. But remember, my comment on the coordination part is especially when you answer the first question, because that's an element that would be great if it can come through for all the colleagues to learn from. Kim, welcome.
Thank you very much, Lani, and good morning to all the panelists and everybody that is attending the webinar. And thank you very much for the invite. I was caught off guard on Monday when I got the invite. I'm not a person that really likes limelight, but I'm going to give my contributions as best I can. I think, as you've already alluded to, you've had a look at our history at King Cetshwayo. Prior to our slight regression, we actually attained 5 clean audits before that regression. One of the biggest learning curves we ever went through as the municipality, we then had entities that came into the picture. So we had a lot of learning and a lot of understanding to incorporate how do we achieve the clean audits together with our entities. So all along, we've really had good audit outcomes as a municipality. However, when the entities come along, as the parent municipality, you have to take a very decisive, effective leadership role when you are dealing with your entities, because they too contribute to the overall picture of your district. But I think most of the colleagues and panelists have really covered the fundamentals, and I know in all the engagements I ever have with even my staff, we have to go back to the fundamentals. You cannot leave an asset register to the last month of the year and think that you're going to achieve no audit findings from the AG. You cannot leave your bank reconciliations to be done monthly. You have to do these small things on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, rolling into a quarterly, and then a biannual, and then obviously culminating in your financial statement. So many years back, we undertook a vision to say that we are going to make sure that every single staff member within the municipality, who is primarily our stakeholder, together with the communities out there, what is our vision? We have to create the vision of clean administration. And I think the Western Cape have done a beautiful job. Nothing clean audit if you are not providing water to our community on a hill in Nomponjwana. Clean audit means nothing if that lady hasn't received clean water for the month on a daily basis, not once a week like we are now encountering with Eskom. So when we talk that lived experience that we're all envisaging one day, that is where we need to drive everybody, from the person who thinks that their job is insignificant in the municipality. So for us, a key fundamental was to get that buy-in from everybody, that although you're a petty cash clerk, you are extremely important. The job that you are doing is extremely important, and how it contributes to the big picture. So that was one of the fundamentals I just wanted to bring in, that, you know, we talk in these high levels, the person who prepares the financials, the person who prepares the performance audit report, the annual report. You need that buy-in, and you need the cooperation, and you need that will from everybody to sustain the municipality. So that was one of our key drives. And I think over the years, we've built that culture that your job is important. Your controls are important. Your daily work is important. You cannot leave a bank recon, say, for the end of the month. So for instance, small little things that we've incorporated. A bank recon on the receipting side gets done every single day. On a weekly basis, that gets reconciled. It gets submitted to the CFO, as trivial as you think that may be. It is an important step in inculcating that culture, that the daily grind of doing your job culminates in something bigger. I think the other thing that we really emphasized, we created, I think we've done acronyms already, where we are saying, what is an AAP and AFS? I had one called the AAAP. It's the annual AFS audit action plan. So I've just added a little, an extra A on there. What I did was, my team, we sit and we go through the last 7 years audit reports, last 7 years audit readiness, and we actually create templates of all the reoccurring findings. And we take it to a committee on a monthly basis, and we ensure that we have all the relevant stakeholders there so that they can see that we have no repeat findings. we make sure that even though you may have had a finding in 2016 or 2015, every year we go through the same findings to make sure that we are those controls still in place? Are we still achieving what we said in 2015 so we don't have a repeat finding? We found that works very, very well. It keeps you really rechecking your work and ensuring you are up to breast. I must say, you've mentioned the FMCMM model. I have to encourage everybody to actually go in and fill in those assessments and do it with honesty. Don't, I think you've already alluded to that, don't go and just do the exercise, yes, yes, yes. Really understand the question, go and look at those associated controls and risks, and actually make sure that your internal controls are actually addressing that, so that when you upload the evidence, it's genuine evidence and it imports or inputs into the end result. So I think if you really do that self-assessment with integrity and honesty, you will come up with plans that will plug all those holes, that when the AG come, you know that you don't have to worry about things like that. Other key fundamentals for us, like I say, we have a monthly AFS meeting or AFS audit readiness meeting, so we don't leave it till the end of the month. So even in the month of July, as we're speaking now, we will start our 23-24 planning, so that we are keeping people in the loop the whole time. That AFS is not a yearly thing, it's a weekly, monthly thing. So we found that has worked very well. Auditors, I know from the preparer side, we see auditors and we all want to run a mile. I've embraced auditors. They are there to be your partner. We've been talking about partners. They are a key partner in your organization. Use them, embrace them. They're there to make sure that your internal controls are in place and that you can actually attain what you're wanting to do. So for me, I send all my things to them, the audit action plan, my AFS implementation plan. I prepare interim financials. I actually want to try for the 23-24 to implement AFS on a quarterly basis, so it becomes more relevant. But send that to the internal auditors. They can review it, they can make sure you're abreast with everything, and that you can pick up any issues right at the beginning, so that you're not trying to run around in the last month of July while you're trying to do financial statements. Other than that, I think that was our fundamental. And also one key thing is keep abreast with all of the legislation. If there's GRAP training, go for the GRAP training, as even if it's a GRAP that may not affect you. For instance, we don't have investment property, but go to the GRAP training. It keeps you abreast. You are in the conversation. You are knowing what's happening, and in the event it does catch you, you are always prepared for these things. It's not something that you're not knowing about. I think, you know, I don't want to labor on things, but it's definitely the fundamentals. If you get the fundamentals right and you do your daily work to the best of your ability and everything is checked, you should not be running around at year end trying to catch up. You may only have issues with really high technical sort of queries from the AG, but your fundamental day-to-day issues, you should be quite comfortable to hand in that audit file with your AFS, nicely referenced, every single item that is recorded on your performance and your notes and it's there, it's referenced, the audit file is ready. So you hand it to the AG, and obviously the audit commences, it's minimal queries from the AG. That's just fundamentally how we've addressed it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kim. And again, as much as you are bringing, I'll say, new aspects to the conversation itself, which was the idea also of having the panel that cuts across municipalities, because JP more on the audit side, and then yourself more on the management accounting side. And if we had our third panelists, specifically from the municipal side, it was to focus on budget management, supply chain management. So all these basically work together. And as we get to the questions, and I'm afraid we've got only 30 minutes left, and I think it's a handful of questions. We will be able to go through them and also allow the panelists just to make their closing remarks. The first question we have is from Francois, directed to Aziz, Aziz, can you give information about if or how the town planning and building control departments fit into the audit process, and how we, from the industry side, can engage with provincial or national departments about addressing issues and improving collaborations on local government. Over to you, Aziz.
Thanks, Alani, and thank you for the question. The question is really how does town planning and building control fit in with the audit process? Or so what I can tell you is many of our municipalities in the Western Cape, they have set themselves a performance target so that when somebody applies to do some renovations of their building, I can recall specifically at the top of my head, if you go to Swartland has a target that says within 8 days of application, we will deliver. So what that municipality has done is, it's a fast-growing municipality, and they've put in a specific metric into a senior manager's performance contract. I know Swartland, as an example, has also indicated that if you do not spend 100% of your budget, there is a rule that you will voluntarily resign. And I mean, this we only get these insights we get directly from the MN in an open forum when we have our technical engagement. In terms of working with the Provincial Treasury, obviously the Provincial Treasury depends on what kind of municipality you are. There are municipalities that are developers themselves. There are municipalities that are developers, and there are project managers. Where the municipality are project managers and they're using the grants that is given from the provincial government, it is critical that the municipality works with the provincial government in ensuring that proper contracts are set up way in advance, because specifically in relation to the delivery of houses, this takes a very long time. So there has to be a proper process in place when it comes to the supply chain process. And I mean, more on the supply chain process, Zolani, I think it would be beneficial to get our local OCPO office in place, as well as to get the Department of Local Government that has the mandate for infrastructure management within the local government space. I hope that helps.
It has helped. Thanks a lot, Aziz. And you've touched specifically on this issue of departments working together, because the siloism, I think in many cases, that's what really creates problems, not only for local governments, provincial and national governments as well. The moment we start seeing government as one, and we look at how best can we work together, can we support each other, I think everything else becomes quite easier. I see your hand, Basil. Let me give you an opportunity.
No, thank you. And just to add to what Aziz is saying, just from a specific municipal perspective, I think it's important that town planning or your technical services, they normally fall under technical services. In your metros, they are normally under different departments. But the key role, you know, you have your asset registers where they play a role in terms of properties within the municipal space. They play a key role when it comes to investment properties. So your town planning departments become a critical partner throughout your audit process, in terms of preparing for in terms of audit readiness and finalization of AFS, you know, for their inputs. So they have a critical role to participate in your audit meetings. We normally work on an audit steering committee basis where the head of technical is part of it. Then we also have your audit coordinating lower levels, where you're now starting to talk about more on a different technical level. And that's also where town planning becomes critical, particularly around your asset registers and when you start talking investment properties, transferring of properties, what's in the registers, what is not in the registers, as well as valuations, you know, and anything that goes with that. So they've got a critical role to play there. Thanks, Zolani. Just to add to what Aziz has said.
No, thanks a lot for those additions, BV. Aziz, I would like you to take the question on the next math together with the one that comes from Ria, which reads as follows. That you have indicated continuity goes a long way in achieving improved audit outcomes. As such, having long-serving CFOs within municipalities serving for 10 to 15 years is beneficial. Now, taking this into consideration, what advice can be given to a province that has got a very small rural communities or municipalities that struggle to attract skilled officials, which is a reality, which then those officials can take the municipalities forward. Also, this affects the implementation of the minimum municipal competency regulations. Then kindly advise, because PTs can have all these support plans that have been mentioned in place. However, without the warm bodies to implement such plans within municipal space, we are fighting a losing battle. Aziz?
So, Lani, that's a difficult question because key to running an organization like a municipality is your CFO and the MM. But council also has other assistants available to them. I think Basil serves on some audit committees, and you must use the audit committees and the internal auditors to best value. Your audit committee can be a significant champion for informing council of what is critical in the organization and what they need to address. Look, getting to a rural municipality and getting the best skills isn't always the easiest thing to do, but what we've done, and Basil will tell you, we have in the Western Cape created a municipal financial management capability grant where every municipality has a bursary scheme. And we've been over the last number of years, starting from 2016, we have supplemented that bursary scheme with about 100 to 150,000 rand in the first year. Then we made it 250 in the second. Then we made it 350 in the third year. And we put the onus on the municipalities, go and find students of the region that is living there, go and help them in supporting them to get to a qualified status. And then you're growing your own grass from university level already. And it is a long time. It's not an overnight solution. The other thing that the municipality could do is possibly request National Treasury for an MFIT advisor, municipal financial advisor. National Treasury normally has a pool of experts available. And then you could also approach the profession, cyber, who has members that you could approach and ask them, are there any CFOs that can be available for 6 to 12 months? The only thing that has to be managed here is a municipality should not set up a contract with a consultant because the consultant doesn't have to take any responsibility other than what is in the SLA. You need somebody that is going to take responsibility and accountability for the key document that is submitted by a municipality. So sometimes you do need consultants, but you need somebody that can manage the consultant. But those are some of the areas. What we've also done, I think very recently in the Western Cape, we've created what we call, we go through a procurement process and we set up a pool of expertise. It's similar to a framework contract where Provincial Treasury vets the people that's on that framework contract. And when there's an assignment, our procurement processes are much quicker, much more efficient because we've already vetted the people. And then if there's an assignment, we can easily access it to have a CFO available for 6 months or for a year, understanding that the CFO will be much like an administrator in a municipality until there is permanency. What we've also done is we've managed to get the Minister of Local Government to hold the council accountable to fast track the appointment of qualified people. And where they cannot find the qualified people, we make sure that those people are adequately trained. They're invited to all of our trainings. And then obviously the door for asking questions is always open.
No, thanks a lot, Aziz, for that. And perhaps I still remember when you and the team started that particular grant, it was on the basis of and for the benefit of the audience. We can talk about rural allowances that municipalities can pay, but also if you look at that, not all municipalities can afford that. And whether a municipality can afford, you are an expert from perhaps that urbanized town or area. And then you look at the allowance itself and you say, no, you can't really move or leave your comfort for such. And I think that bursary scheme, Aziz, it's one thing that perhaps other treasuries can look at and see how best they can utilize it for the benefit of their municipalities. And there's a question from Anonymous around the UIF, whether you can give a guidance on the process of writing off the UIF, and how does the municipality properly do the investigations and recommend for write-offs where necessary. This is a complex subject on its own, because as part of my current projects, I have a project in Northwest, and I was meeting with the Municipal Public Account Committee members, specifically around this particular item. It's a problem for the MPECs, it's a problem for officials, but there is a way. And again, it's a topic perhaps in the next year. We just need to have a webinar focusing on that, because as I say, it's complex, it's not going away, it needs to be dealt with. Over to you, Aziz.
Thank you, Zolani. And yeah, I'm going to touch on what Tim has said. We have to get the basics right. There is Circular 65, MFMA Circular 65, there's MFMA Circular 68, and there's MFMA Circular 92. 65 speaks to the work of the internal auditors as well as the audit committees. 68 speaks to UISNW and how to deal with it in terms of processes. And then Circular 92 critically speaks about the work of impact. If you make sure that impact does their work, then you would be able to deal with UISNW. But I think the root cause of UISNW is to make sure that you have a proper supply chain management as well as a supply SCM scheme, because most of your UISNW will come from SCM and how it gets interpreted. And in the Western Cape, we have a supply chain manager forum, so that again, we rely heavily on peer learning, where the one district would hold another district accountable in terms of ensuring that the interpretation of whether it is the NT instruction or whether it is the preferential procurement regulations, every single regulation or circular instruction, the Provincial Treasury will go through it in the forum to make sure that we all are of the same understanding. So your basic is to get your team right so that you don't have procurement findings later down the line. But should you have findings, then your impact and your audit committee and your internal auditor can be involved in your investigations. But I think, as you say, for a later forum discussion, we can demonstrate to you what we've done in the Western Cape to be able to bring that down to at least 2% of the entire country's UISNW.
That's a success on its own. And looking at the time, you had a question, and I'll type an answer to your comment, which is a valid comment, because such proposals can go a long way. But as a last question that we'll take before I give the round of closing remarks, so let me give you PV. I see your hand is up before we get to the last question.
Yeah, Zizek, no thanks. I just want to add to what Aziz has said. I think important, Aziz, is also Circular 114 that deals with consequence management and accountability that was issued by National Treasury. Zizek, I think there's a lot of guidance within that circular that municipalities can follow, the functioning, the roles of responsibilities and the functioning. So I just wanted to add for municipalities in the audience to look at 114 as well. Thanks.
No, thanks a lot, BV, for those inputs. There's a last question that we're going to take before I give each of my panelists just for the closing. And I think the questions were more focused on the presentation that Aziz did, understandably so. There's one that comes from Hardien. I think one question I have is around sector plans as well as IDP, and IDP is the integrated development plans, and the spatial development frameworks, credibility in relation to municipal budgets. Any chance of starting developing some digital tools that can actually review this year on year? Because there are times where the IDP, which is as strategic as it should be, portrays an unrealistic strategy or vision, versus that past trends reflect in revenue generation and ultimately proposed municipal budgets. Any thoughts on a digital alignment metrics tool as a possible pilot in the Western Cape?
Visit, for this, I am going to have to reflect on what my Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning is doing. Like I said, we do the time engagement and we do the time engagement. And if I can just give you an idea of who sits in those engagements, it is the Department of Treasury, it is the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, it is the Department of the Premier, it is the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, and then we also have the Department of Local Government. And I think Basil will agree, it was, I mean, mainly under Basil, when he was working at the Provincial Treasury, pulling all of these key partners of these departments into one room and having an integrated engagement with the municipality, but also aligning ourselves to the provincial strategic plan in terms of what is it that the province wants to achieve. And I can tell you that our Department of Environmental Affairs, they always raise the issue of the municipal SDS, the Spatial Development Framework. I think there was a presentation done by one of my colleagues where they've now been able to do a heat map of a town and where the development is happening. And they are able to, in their technical engagement, engage in open platform with the municipality in terms of working with schools, working with hospitals, at the Department of Health and Education, as well as working with the municipality to see if you're going to open up let's say a community, how best do we place that community, or how best do we place that school or that hospital so that it doesn't negatively impact on the traffic. So short answer, we are making use of technology.
Thanks a lot for that, Aziz. And at this point, yes, there are still some other questions, but time also is a factor, because I wouldn't want a situation whereby one of our panelists has to drop off because of other commitments. What we normally do for the questions that we don't normally get to, because there's always a lot, we take it upon ourselves to refer the questions to the panelists so that we can get the answers from those particular questions. Perhaps as a matter of closing, Aziz, there was maybe a question or a request of when is your MEF, which is the Municipal Accountants Forum, taking place. because from the audience, there is someone who has got an interest on that. It's a date that you can share, but also as closing remarks, as I'll take each of the panelists, you can also share your sentiments. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Zulani, I also have to step off, but let me say that for the colleagues in the room, a clean audit is not difficult to achieve. If you go back to your basics, if you invest in your people in the municipality, if you make sure that there is constant training, and if you give people a purpose, so for instance, delegating and allowing people to make decisions, but also understand that they will be held accountable for the decisions. If you grow your staff, and Basil, when he was there, he was very much involved in trying to grow the staff and thinking higher than what you're just currently doing. You have to invest in your staff. You have to make sure that your systems are proper, and then understand or make sure that your team understands the strategy. In that way, you can never go wrong. And then also, like Tim said, make the auditor your friend. They're not the enemy. They are there to assist and help. And very importantly, make use of your audit committee and very much make use of your internal auditors. These are institutions that is there to make the organization a winning organization. Thanks, Zulani.
No, thanks a lot, Aziz, and most importantly, thanks a lot for availing yourself for this session. I wouldn't have thought of any better person who would have articulated the position of the Western Cape Treasury as it relates to the audit outcome successes. BV, your parting shot?
That's it. No, thank you very much. And thank you to the rest of the panel, Aziz, for leading the panel. Really insightful, and it was really an honor to be here. I think my final words is linked to what Kim has said. I think Kim has given an important message, as it said. An audit do not start year end. If you want to improve your audit results, it starts from the 1st of July. Municipalities must put in place an annual plan. You know, you hear a lot of audit readiness plan and an F's plan, and then when you look at it, it starts here in June. You know, from my perspective, I say put together an annual plan. Put together everything that the AG will ask for, would look for on an annual plan, and you make sure that those things are happening on a regular basis. Your audit action plan is developed immediately after you receive your AG report. It's shared with your relevant treasury. The treasury reviews it, internal audit reviews it, and it becomes part of the living document within your management team. You know, along with your FMCM, becomes part of the municipality's living. You know, it shouldn't be seen as add-on, because as soon as you see it as add-on, it's not part of your daily or monthly activities, it will not get done. And then a municipality or institution will have problems when it comes year in. So that is my final parting advice. I wish all the municipalities well. I wish all treasuries well in their support, Aziz and everyone that's on the call, and even you guys, Aziz, the work that you are doing in helping and capacitating municipalities and everyone involved in you know, creating public value. You know, getting our people to ours is what is the word, the living experience, to have improved living experience. So thank you from my side, and thank you for the invite. Thanks.
No, thanks a lot, BV, for that. No, that's much appreciated. JP, but also in your closing remarks, remember the role of the CAE Forum. How is it one of the value chain within the success of the Western Cape?
Thanks, Zulani. As alluded to by Aziz, there's various forums that exist within the local government sphere. The MM Forum, TFO Forum, SCM. I don't refer to abbreviations. Your municipal managers forums, your chief financial officer forums. You have supply chain management, integrated. There's a lot of issues, but from a chief audit executive and a chief risk officer forum focusing on internal audit and risk management. It's a forum that was established, and it consists of all the municipal chief audit executives and chief risk officers And also, we also extend an invite to the Western Cape Provincial Government's Chief Audit Executive in the Premier's office to attend as well. So these forums are there to facilitate sort of sessions adding value through sharing of best practices and information. So it's basically a platform where all municipalities, CAEs can get together, share best practices, and especially address transversal issues affecting all municipalities. And these forums feedback, it feeds into the CFO and the MM's forum with regards to this. So the forum is established to provide sort of a center for learning, Zolani, and the agenda is guided by the most prevalent issues or burning issues in these disciplines, including the AG reports and so forth. What is driven also through the PT side is the establishment of district forums. So we have the large one, which I'm chairperson of, the Western Cape one, where all the CAEs are of the Western Cape. But we also have district forums. So each district will also have an internal audit and a risk management forum where they discuss those issues specifically to municipalities. And then when we have the bigger group, we can feed those feedback into the bigger group in terms of addressing some of these issues. One thing that the forum actually does well is also we have a sort of a technical committee as part of the forum. So when there's technical issues, like issues with staff regulations, like the issue with the new Structures Act that requires internal audit report to be submitted to MPAC, we refer that to our specialized or technical team to look at it. So from my side, the forum is doing excellent work, Zolani, in terms of driving and assisting the municipalities in internal audit and risk space. But from my side, concluding, I think that just back to the basics, implement the internal audit controls, and from management side to just take this seriously in terms of the leadership, financial management, governance, and so forth. Thanks, Zolani, for the invite, and thanks to the team and the attendees.
Thanks a lot, JP. And the one lady amongst the panelists, Kim, you're parting short. And there's one thing good even about, if you look, you listen to the closing remarks, they tie back to what you've said. And perhaps that's a great thing. How you are representing a district municipality, and perhaps other people can argue to say, but a district, why? But the learnings are the same. Public finance management is one. What's your closing remark, Kim?
Thank you very much, Alani, and thank you to everybody. I think the previous panelists have stole my limelight in terms of a closing remark, but I think they've hit the nail on the head. It is fundamentals. It is back to basics. It is that setting the tone from the top and making sure everybody throughout your organization, no matter how small you think you are, how important you think you are, how less important you think you are, that they understand that their role is critical. A family unit can only succeed if every member is appreciated, and it is imperative that in a municipality, we need to make our staff understand that and make them know that they are extremely valued. And through that value, they create value in what they do. They create value in terms of the product that we are putting out there, which is making happy, healthy communities. And we as municipal employees are living in that very same community. We want to go home, we want to open our taps, we want beautiful water, we want electricity, we want beautiful roads, and that starts with every individual in the municipality. And if we can inspire and encourage our staff through keeping them abreast, keeping the learning going, keeping them inspired to actually say, we're the best. We drive down our road, there's not a potter running in my tap. What more can a person ask for? And I think that's my parting shot. If we can get everybody to just feel that passion, it will filter through and you will achieve not only clean audit, but clean governance. Thank you.
And clean governance, of course, shall win. And even beyond clean governance, because I think clean governance is because of clean audit, but let's talk good governance. I think when we started BV, that was the concept, good governance, but now we can't run away from the concept of clean governance. And once more, my panelists, thank you very much for making your time. I know it's not easy to steal 2 hours from your busy schedules, especially given this time of the year. Your presence, your inputs are much appreciated from the side of the Municipal Edge and Future Cities Africa, and of course then to yourself and the team, but our audience, because without you, we will not exist. Not only the audience that is in attendance in this particular session, the audience that will interact with this content, because as I said earlier on, this is more a masterclass to me than just a conversation, which also links to what we adopted for this year. Was we've been talking a lot. Let's move from ideas, let's go to actions. And again, for anyone who gets this recording and is serious about improving a situation at a municipal level, could it be a provincial treasury or municipalities and various stakeholders, this 2 hour will be a 2 hour worth spending your time on. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, let me adjourn this session, and until we meet in our next webinar, thank you once more and enjoy your day further.